Rev up your engines! Today I'm going to talk about a Nissan that I would actually buy. Yeah, me, Scotty, saying I would actually buy a Nissan. But it's an older Nissan. It's a 99 240SX. The last year they made them. This 4-cylinder engine puts out 45 more horsepower than my venerable Celica. Hey, the Celica's sitting here jealous. This baby's old school. It's rear-wheel drive. Drifters love these cars. They can soup up the engine that's in it. They can put a bigger engine in. People are always trying to buy this from my customer, who's the original owner, and turn it into a drift car. There's a lot of working room on this thing. Since guys drift them, guys modify them, there's all kinds of things you can do to them, and there's all kinds of good aftermarket parts you can buy that are readily available at not that big of an expense. Now, the interiors are pretty cozy. This has a little bit of wood in it too, make it look a little snazzier. It's got killer cold AC. This is just an automatic, but it worked perfectly fine. This vehicle was made before Renault took over Nissan. There's a lot of quality still in this car. As a matter of fact, strangely enough, this customer also owns a 1990 standard transmission one. It's the same basic car, but it's got a standard transmission in it. And as you can see, it's got a decent sized trunk, goes back here. It's not one of those sports cars that has no trunk space. You can throw a reasonable amount of crap in this car. It's not like you're gonna be stuck with whatever you can throw in a tiny back seat. You can carry a reasonable amount of stuff in this car. And yeah, it's got a back seat in it, but just like my Celica, there isn't that much leg room in one of these things. It's not a 4-door, it's a little sports car that has a back seat if you have small friends. And this one even came with fancy rims from the factory. Plus, it's got discs all around. My Celica has discs on the front, but only drums in the back. This is a better stopping car. It's much sportier. But I know people are going to say, well, Scotty, if they're so good, why don't they make them anymore? It's more a marketing decision than anything else. Companies these days, they like to standardize stuff. This is a 4-cylinder rear-wheel drive car. Hardly anybody makes those anymore. They would rather have all their cars have the same engine and drivetrain so they can make them cheaper, mass production, than they have to have special production just for one particular car. Pretty much the same thing happened with the Toyota Previa van. Those vans were pretty much indestructible, but they had the engine in the middle, then they had that little drive shaft in the front that ran the air conditioning and the power steering. Cost a lot of money to make those. So the Previas were replaced with the Siennas. Had the Toyota Camry V6 engine and transmission, so they were sharing a lot of parts. A lot of why cars are made today is to lower production costs and have commonality of parts, so it's easier and cheaper for the companies to make them. And truthfully, a lot of sports cars are going in different directions. This thing was a great vehicle for driving, had a top speed of 137 miles an hour. Some sports car guys want cars that go a lot faster than that. For a fun sporty car, 137 miles an hour is fast enough. So for people who wanted more speed, today they probably go out and they look at the 370Z Nissan. They go up to 155 miles an hour stock. Still, hey, this thing was pretty fast for a little car. A lot of people had fun in them. But if you really wanted to get speed out of this old 240SX, it is possible to put one of those Nissan Skyline engines in. There's a few mods, including motor mounts you'd have to do, but it's doable. I've seen it done. Like I said, these are rear-wheel drive. The drifters really love them. You can modify stuff, put engines and different transmissions in, but the actual chassis and frame, hey, it's pretty solid built. And of course, there's a zillion mods that you can do on the suspension system too to beef it up. You can get them so you can have adjustable suspension, one of those little wrenches to adjust it as tight or loose as you want. There's all kinds of stuff you can do with it. On a basic car like this, hey, the sky's the limit. But as a stock car, hey, even though it's 20 years old, still pretty good looking, handles quite well. The way it came from the factory, they're still fun little cars to drive around. And unlike modern Nissans, they're highly dependable. This thing still is running like a clock, even though it's 20 years old. It doesn't have problems with head gaskets blowing like the modern engine. Doesn't have any serious transmission problems. These things were built like small tanks. Solid engine. It's got the timing chain in it, not one of those stupid timing belts. So you don't have to worry about that stupid plastic timing belt broken. Even though it's old, it's still got a timing chain inside. Heck, Nissan really invented the reliable sports car. Back in 1970, they had the 240Z. the first really dependable sports car. Before that, they leaked oil, they didn't start, they fell apart all the time. Nissan sold the heck out of those things. Of course, they were called Datsuns back then. Same company, what's in a name? And even though the 240SX is a completely different car than the 240Z, the 240Z had a 6-cylinder engine, and this is a 4-cylinder engine. The 240Z evolved into the 260, the 280Z, the 300Z, the 350Z, the 370Z. They decided to make a smaller kind of sporty car, but like I say, they faded away and they don't make them anymore. You either get ones with bigger engines or you don't get a sports car. But look at it, it's 20 years old, still got a stylish front end on it. I wish they'd still make the things. Like I said, this is one of the few Nissans that I'd buy. Of course, if they made a modern version, they'd be making it in conjunction with Renault, so who knows, it'd probably be a total crapmobile. But back in the day, these things were solid vehicles. And if you're lucky enough to find one in as good shape as this old one is, my advice is buy the thing. It'll probably only appreciate in value from now on, because guys that really know cars know these things are solid made. And really good models are kind of like hen's teeth these days. They're very hard to find. So now you know the truth about this Nissan and why this is one of the few Nissans that Scotty would actually buy. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.